Hello everyone, welcome again to database management class. I wanted to take extra time to maybe go over some things that may be helpful for you. So what I'm going to do is to lecture a little bit in terms of uh, what you are asked to do, how to do the assignments. I'm sharing with you the week number 1. I know this is not your view because I have not opened this up yet, but here's the lecture outline that I posted up, and as soon as the video is processed, I'll load it up right here. But if you download this, you should see this document. So um, let me go over a few items here. I'll go over the the content a little bit here for the course that I didn't get to cover last time or in the previous video. I'll go through the assignments and I'll do some things myself and make a few comments, and as well as the next week. So this is from the syllabus that's posted. Um, this is the number of weeks. Here's the week date. There's some topics that I'm going to utilize in terms of assignments. Because the Zybook is not ready, I'm going to have to cover some of those next week. So it'll be Introduction to Database and the Relational Database next week. And we'll begin talking about the database designing part 1 and part 2 in week 6, but we'll do the SQL, 2 weeks of SQL in between. And then we'll spend some time on designing other topics as well as actually doing the project. And I'll talk more about it as we go through. There are 3 assignments that I posted for this week, which I already mentioned before, so I'm not going to talk about too much. But they are discussion board, introducing yourself, the Zybook access, and the research paper. And the discussion board is to just simply introduce yourself. And so I'll introduce myself to the class as well through this portion. I have a very diverse background in terms of educational background as well as work experience, but I have a electrical engineering degree, computer science, and MBA and literature degrees in my educational background. I've been mostly teaching for a long time. I taught at ITT. I'm still teaching at Lewis. I worked for some consulting companies before, as well as regular companies like Rockwell International and the like. And then in terms of my work here, recent work at Lewis University, I worked as an IT programmer, business analyst, and currently I'm working at the Washington and Lee University as an IT business analyst right now. So that's a little bit about me. In terms of Zybook access, you'll need that for this course. This is a subscription that you need to purchase, but it's not ready yet. I'll let you know when it's ready, and let me show you how that looks like. So here's a Zybook. If you go to the Zybook link that's posted on for you, and you log in, these are the topics. You can log directly into this and just work on them. But in order for you to actually get the scores transferred to Blackboard, you need to come using the links that are in Blackboard, which you'll see. I know I'm sharing with you from the previous term, spring 2021, because the fall 2021 is not ready. It should be ready in a couple of days. But as you can see, there are topics in here, and there are some descriptions as to what they are, and there's some videos that you can watch, and some participation activities you can do. So it's very interactive that you can go through. I'll talk about it a little bit, but I think hands-on experience is probably the best way to go. Here's a relational database. I'll talk about the tables and columns and rows and things like that. Here's the database design outline that I'm going to use a little bit. Here's a SQL that some of you may already know and be good at. and there are some other transactional management things like that we'll talk about. Okay, but anyway, this is how the zyBooks look like when you actually subscribe. So as soon as I hear from the zyBooks, I'll share the news. By the way, all these are due in 2 weeks, so you should have plenty of time to finish them. The third item that I asked you to do is to write a brief response to the questions, and here are the copies of the 3 questions. Some of you, I think, have already turned it in, so it may be a little bit of a review. This is not to be very technical. This is a very opening, introductory questions that I'm asking, so you don't have to be very long or arduous about responding. Just 2 paragraphs for each question should be more than plenty. But just to say something from my side, there are many differences between database and database management systems, but major difference is a database is just simply a collection of data, however you want to describe it, whereas the database management system is a system that actually manages your databases, a database or a collection of databases, right? So it offers features like security and performance tunings and all those things, right? So you may have a database that like an Excel or whatever, if you want to consider that as anything similar to a database. But for this class, we'll be talking about database management systems. There are, I don't want you to be ignorant of the advantages and disadvantages of database management system. Just because we have database management system, we should all be using it. Most likely you will if it's a company, but you need to be aware of some disadvantages. There are definitely some disadvantages like the cost, the scale, the complexity, and the cost of not only purchasing and implementing, but also maintaining, and it's really high maintenance, right? And so there are things that you need to consider. What are some examples of database management systems that are available? There are a ton of them out there. Microsoft SQL Server, which is kind of free. There's Oracle, very popular and sort of the main one. There's MySQL, and there are many other ones. We will try not to get into any specific one most of the time, but I will refer to some of these, especially as we get closer to doing a project. You may want to pick one over the other. For the purpose of this course, you can do some of the database work using Microsoft Access or similar products from other companies, but I would not really consider, or most, DBA would not consider that as a database management system. But it certainly is feasible for something small or less maintenance. As a side note, we used to install MicroSQL Server, download it, install on a desktop or whatever, but I've switched to do it online simply because the cost and the trouble of installing and running into all kinds of problems. And as the companies are moving online, I thought it'd be good to just get away from that. You will have an option to install some of these later on in the course, so we'll talk more about it as we get through. There are 3, maybe 4, at least online database platforms that I will try to utilize. The popular one is the SQL Fiddle. So if you click on that, it'll take you to this here. This is kind of useful. For example, here you can have a drop down and you have access to a lot of the database management systems that are available out there, right? So you have a SQL Server, you have Oracle, and so you can use any one of these you like. You can use this site I'll talk more about how to use this, but this is certainly one of them. You can build a schema here, you can write your SQL script here, and you get to see what the product is like. You can do this one here. I think I already made that open here. W3 schools offer a pre-made database you can use. You can write your SQL here, and then you can play around with it. You can also go as far as using the online GBD, where you can use not only online programmings, but you can also use a SQLite. So this is, maybe the third option you can use, unless otherwise specify what you need to use. You can use pretty much any one of those. We will use some designing platforms, such as the Lucidchart or any other designing platforms, but we've had good luck with Lucidchart, a free edition, to design some parts of the database management. So we'll use that. So that's sort of things what I wanted to cover. Next week we'll cover chapter 1 and 2 from the Zybook, and hopefully in the meantime, this week the Zybook will be available, and you will be able to subscribe and do a quick research paper and review what the difference between the database and database management system is, and to introduce yourself to the course. So next week we'll get a lot more meaty on the material. That's pretty much it for a little bit more detail of what I wanted to do, and so look forward to moving forward. Thanks, and as always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me.